Three bewares that we're focusing on here are actually things that can disrupt the mercy that we're learning, that can disrupt the faith and the prayer. And so Jesus naturally zeroes in on these things, and the first that we focus on, and there's several texts, I think we got three or four texts that are recommended, but chapter 12 is especially good if you could just focus on one, if you got time to focus on one in class. Read all of them. Again, read all 10 chapters during the week and say, I'm looking for the bewares. What is Jesus telling me in here not to do? And we already talked last week about ways not to pray, right? And that leads us into this first beware, because it was the Pharisees' way of praying that really identified his own hypocrisy, his own self-sufficiency. And that is the first beware that Jesus gives. Beware of the hypocrisy, or the leaven, the hypocrisy of the Pharisees. And it's sad that, so much of the religious tradition of this time had kind of devolved into an appearances-based. The hypocrisy is the Greek word behind that is almost like a mask. It's that actor's mask. And so it's about presentation. In our social media world, we have a lot of emphasis on presentation, right? You can kind of present yourself the way you want to be seen, not necessarily who you are. Jesus' gospel is about authenticity. It's about being vulnerable with him. And the killer to authenticity is hypocrisy. And so he's like, don't be like the Pharisees. Be real with me. Be honest. Show your true colors. And of course, leaven is an interesting metaphor, because leaven is that little bit you put in the bread that influences the whole thing and puffs you up. And so you can it's a beautiful illustration of kind of getting puffed up in pride. This little hypocrisy is in there, and it sort of skews the whole. The second thing is fear itself, which is big. He talks a lot about fear, and kind of the whole frame of reference of fear over the anxieties of life, the things of what am I going to eat, what I'm going to clothe myself with, right up to, fear of death or someone hurting me. He asks us to not fear, but to fear him. Trust him. This connects to our last lesson too, that was focusing on faith, because fear is the real killer of faith. And so fear is one of the things to beware of, because it can undermine. If we're really afraid, can we have mercy, show mercy like we need to? If we're really afraid, are we really going to turn to the Lord in prayer and trust him? And so these bewares connect to these themes that we saw in the last lesson of mercy and prayer and faith. But the biggest theme here of this beware is beware of covetousness. And, all the way back to the Song of Mary in chapter 1, there's been this undercurrent that Luke, especially, more than all the other Gospels combined, Luke is really concerned to show Jesus's concern about how wealth, riches, and the pride that comes with it can rob us of a relationship with God. And I think the big part of that is the self-sufficiency that often comes in being self-made, if you will. It's not really about how much. It's about where we've put our priorities. I think I say here in this is worth reading at the end to think about it. The problem of riches is not about how much you have. Covetousness is a mindset that robs our faith and turns possessions into idols, just as fear robs our ability to trust God. So beware. That's how we conclude. And so this concern about covetousness goes all the way back to Adam and Eve in the garden. I mean, that taking rather than receiving is the problem that humans have. And again, chapter 12 is so important in the story of the rich fool. Read that story, because that's the illustration he gives right after. He says, beware of covetousness. And he tells this story. And you'll notice as he gives this parable of the rich fool says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. There's no God to be found. There's no Jesus to be found. And then all of a sudden, everything's gone. And Jesus leaves with the question is, well, what was he rich towards? Was he rich towards God, or was he rich towards himself? And that's the takeaway here, the big beware. Reading Luke with an eye to this concern about the real potential problems that wealth brings. Even the story of the young lawyer who comes to Jesus and was unable to give his riches away to the poor and follow Jesus. And Jesus is like, well, can a rich man enter the kingdom? And there's this question of when we're serving mammon, if our riches become our God, then it is impossible to enter into the kingdom if it's become an idol to us. And this is something that Luke especially emphasizes, and it's a big part of this. It goes all the way back to the Song of Mary. And so we need to pay a special close attention to that particular warning that Jesus is giving his disciples.